I believe we are live. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Jon TheMorgile, coming to you half dead from Honea Pass, South Carolina. I must say that I got hit like a ton of damn bricks with a flu bug a few days ago. Luckily, I keep a certain panacea on hand that I cannot mention here, or they will literally ban my YouTube channel permanently for spreading medical misinformation. So, even though I'm not a doctor, never claimed to be a doctor, and I was merely, in the past attesting to my personal experience with this panacea that cannot be named on YouTube. And they retroactively like sniped several of my videos where I had mentioned this panacea, and basically gave me a bunch of like warnings that if I ever do it again, that they're gonna just ban my channel outright. So I'm not gonna tell you what I took a couple days ago and continue to take once a day, and I'm feeling way better. Like I don't know if you guys have been hit with one of these super flu bugs lately, but like I can tell when it's a super flu bug, right? Because normally when I get the seasonal flu or like catch a cold or whatever, you can kind of gradually feel it coming on, right? And there's like stages, right? And usually one of those stages is, if you have productive coughs, there's certain different flavors of productive coughs, at least in my personal experience and opinion. And you can kind of tell where you're at along the flu bug's life cycle or whatever based on the palette of your phlegm. And this is sounding way grosser than I intended it to, but okay, we'll get off of that for a minute. But like, so this particular flu bug, I just all of a sudden got dizzy, cold chills, and unproductive coughs, right? And a fever. And this was all within like a couple hours, right? So the symptoms just hit me hard, fast. There was no building up to it. And so I immediately took a pretty aggressive protocol of this panacea that shall not be named. That was 3 days ago, I think. So like day 2, my phlegm already had the flavor of Flintstones chewable vitamins. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. And when you hit that stage, at least in my opinion, that's when you're on the recovery. That's when you're on the recoup, right? So this stuff actually does work real fast, within 24 to 48 hours. And I did another aggressive, just single dose protocol day 2, and I haven't even had to mess with it. And now we're on day 3. And I feel way better. Like all the symptoms are gone. I do still have a residual bit of a cough, but I still had quite a bit of a like a running cough. I don't know if you maybe call it like a walking cough or something, that I had been unable to shake from the last time I had caught a cold. But I never did the protocol of this aggressive panacea that cannot be named on YouTube, because it just wasn't warranted. But I keep this stuff on hand. And so when I started feeling the symptoms of this particular flu bug, and I'd heard from a couple friends, Belle's in particular, she had told me she basically had felt like she was going to die. And so, I mean, she's way over in Utah, right? I've never been to Utah, but that the bugs do travel in the airlines and stuff, don't they? I guess. So anyway, I know that I got hit by this damn super bug, but now, 3 days in, I'm pretty damn good, man. Like, day 1, I definitely took a couple of NSAIDs, I think some aspirin or something to help with the fever. Day 2, I didn't even have to do that, and I had the productive coughs because if you're having unproductive coughs with the flu, especially as a smoker, yeah, it's not good. Unproductive coughs are not good. That's when you start shredding your lungs and everything too, right? So, I have been doing the nicotine patch thing, but I broke down and I relapsed. But I've only had about 5 cigarettes in the last 24 hours. So, and I don't buy cigarettes, I roll my own. So it's very cheap. But honestly, I'm just going to quit. Every time I've done quit, my old lady quits, but then I catch her sneaking and smoking behind my back. And like, the whole thing is we're supposed to be quitting for her benefit, especially. And if I'm quitting and she's sneaking and having cigarettes, what's the damn point, right? Anyway, so we got a few things to talk about with y'all today. I hope y'all are having a wonderful Saturday, Shabat Shalom, and all that good jazz. Yeah, V. Thomas, I'm sorry, love, dude. Sorry, I don't know if you're a dude or a love. Well, I love you. I love the dudes too. No homo, bros. But yeah, I totally would name what I'm talking about, but I can't, because if I do mention it at all on YouTube, then my channel gets taken down for sure. Like, they've got a committee of a few dozen people watching my channel to make sure that this crazy ass flat earther here doesn't go around making medical misinformation claims, right? As if I'm going around pretending to be a doctor or something, telling people, like, writing prescriptions or some shit, right? No, we're talking about like caveats and disclaimers all in there. You know, I'm not a doctor. You know, this is not medical advice. This is just anecdotal, personal experience for entertainment purposes only. And it doesn't matter. They're still going to basically say that you're giving out medical misinformation, and they will strike you down permanently. So I'm just not going to go there. Unfortunately, but hit me up on the socials or whatever, and I'll definitely share my personal experience with y'all on an individual basis. So anyway, so let's see here. The first thing that I wanted to touch on was, and because I know that y'all are still kind of popping in here a bit, I just wanted to share an article. And I guess, I didn't even run the intro, so let's just go ahead and not totally break protocol. Let me run the intro, and I'm going to put some more cream in my coffee while we do that. 1 second. Intro time, y'all.
What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question. This is called gravity. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. This is called gravity.
Neil, I gotta say, you're totally blowing my mind right now.
That's what I do. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitch.
Okay, so we got to do the intro, right? Okay. So I do got a couple articles I want to share with y'all. And I guess it's much better if we just do this for the background. You just really don't need to be seeing extreme close-up stuff. McGrill. Come on, be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Okay. So yeah, this first article, we're just going to touch. So this is a mainstream New York Times article. Oh, and throw me a thumbs up in the chat if y'all can see and hear me okay. I would appreciate it. Inhaled some bird flu fog from Tic Tac 2 Airlines. Yeah, I don't know, man. Target Whitman coming at you from Lexington South. Hey, man, I don't think that's too far from Greenville. What's up? What's up, Rocket? How about it, man? I know you probably hate my guts, dude, if you're on the up and up legit with the things that you've said, and I'm sure you are. I just, man, I've been burned so many times, and like, I don't know what to say other than, hopefully this thing resolves itself eventually, and I can apologize and all that good stuff, man. So, no hard feelings though. Cartoon Arms, thoughts on Jaren becoming a globe earther. You know, honestly, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, did I ever see that day coming? I would have told you an emphatic no. But at the same time, there were a lot of people, you know, in my ear, you know, friends, people that I consider friends, telling me, hey, you know, something like this, something exactly like this is going to happen with Jaren and them. And I didn't want to believe it. I didn't, it's not that I ignored them, right? I tend to give my friends or people that I consider to be my friends the benefit of the doubt, right? I mean, there's not a lot that I won't do for my friends, honestly. And so when people would suggest something along the lines of Jaren ultimately shilling for the globe, you know, I would have told you that's madness, right? But lo and behold, 2025, here we are. And so I can't help but to revisit that. And you know, specifically, well, I don't want to say any names. I'm not trying to single anybody out. But there were a lot of people that I still, to this day, respect their research and their opinions on things that were warning me of exactly this years and years ago. Okay, so maybe I was a little bit blind. Maybe I was treated a little bit differently by the people in question, and so I had blinders on. I don't know, man. But we've sort of come full circle, and it doesn't really matter what I think. But, you know, in my opinion, nobody will ever convince me that that like they didn't see this coming, or like they were set up and played, like nobody could have ever seen this coming. Like, that's ridiculous. There were tons of people basically prophesying exactly what happened months and months prior to them even getting on the plane, right? So for anyone to try to, you know, get a shocked reaction out of me, and that ain't gonna happen. I mean, I think about as shocked as I was, you know, the videos that I did before they even left. I was already into the shock then, because the stage was already set, right? It was just a matter of knocking down that first domino, wasn't it? Because when you have prominent flurfers going on the record saying things like, the 24-hour sun in the Antarctic is impossible on flat Earth and only works on a globe, to me, that is, you know, that's all the proof that I will ever need. And by the way, nobody will ever convince me that Whitsitt was not on some bomb digs ass ecstasy, at least during one of those video shoots. Just saying, dude. Just saying. And I am kind of an expert in that field, so. But that's crazy. You got to go all the way to fucking the South Arctic Circle to get some decent MDMA these days. That's fucking absurd. And there I go with the F-bombs within the first 8 minutes of the thing. I'm sorry. Well, it's not like I'm making ballin' ass bank on fucking AdSense revenue, right? Not really. So I actually finally did hit threshold this month. So thanks to the super chats and thanks to all the conglomeration of, you know, AdSense revenue over the course of like 3 months, I finally do get a bit of a payment from YouTube. So thank you. It's been a long time coming, man. But hey, beggars can't be choosy, as they say. So let me, and I don't know what happened with Riverside, but my nifty little background that I had put on there before is gone. And I can't seem to figure out how to replace it. So it looks shittier than ever. Moving on up, right? Like George and Wheezy. Okay. Okay, Bob Dilson says, with Jaron and Bob both being off Globebusters, do I plan to return? No. I mean, I was never invited to return, so it's not like I'm just going to show up and be like, what's going on up in here? You know what I mean? Like, that's not, I'm not going to rain on their parade or whatever. If I was invited, sure, I would hang out with, you know, Cammy and Zach and them. Absolutely, man. I don't harbor any ill will against them, but I just get the feeling that you know, that isn't mutual, right? So as much as, you know, publicly the Globebusters sort of on the face pretended to be friends of my channel or whatever, behind the scenes, you know, not really so much. I mean, I genuinely do think that Cammy and I have a decent relationship, and the one or two times that I met Zach, you know, we got along swimmingly, right? So I don't have a problem with them, but yeah, at the same time, I just don't think the feeling's mutual. We don't need to get into the reasons or my, you know, logistics behind that, but you know, from where I'm sitting, I kind of feel like Globebusters and Cammy and them kind of sort of owe me an apology, and for a lot of things I don't even probably know the extent of. But, you know, in lieu of that, you know, I will say that if I ever did anything to offend them, then I surely do apologize. It never meant anything by anything that I may have done that may have been construed as offensive to them. You know, definitely Bob and I had a falling out, and there were some things said between Bob and I that, you know, anybody would find offensive, but that was the extent of it, right? And that never came to public spectacle. I kind of made sure of it, and for good reason. I think that was a wise choice on my part, right? Nice work, Johnny. But at the same time, you know, I don't know, man. I've kind of moved on from that chapter, and, you know, I kind of realize where I'm not entirely welcome. And so, you know, I'm kind of like a vampire, dude. You got to invite me in, right? Anyway, no, I'm exactly like a vampire because I want to suck your blood. I want to suck your blood. Oh, what am I doing? There's like a fan blowing on this computer, so I've got to like matrix it to get away from the wind. It's just pot, you guys. It's just pot. It's not drugs. Damn. It really does help with my pain. It's about the only damn thing. It's a non-stop battle against the pain. We're gonna make it, man. We're gonna make it. We still gonna make it. Okay, so let's get right into this article about this is a mainstream article about the SoCal wildfires. I just kind of wanted to check the pulse in terms of what exactly the mainstream shtick is being said about the California wildfires. Now, I know there is a lot of speculation, a lot of conspiracy theoristing going on, and top notch, man. Good on you. I don't necessarily want to venture into that territory simply because, for one thing, I've never been to California. Okay? I've certainly never been to the SoCal California wildfires. So, like, anything that I could possibly add to the conversation would be sort of secondhand hearsay speculation, and I don't really want to delve into that. But with that being said, we can also read the mainstream narrative and just see what exactly those crazy idiot boneheads are saying about this thing, right? Sometimes if you just read between the lines of the mainstream shtick, they tend to like tell on themselves sort of as a rule. Like it's kind of like they have to, I don't know, whoever they are, right? Speaking of which, I've made an entire video on who are they, and I think it's called They Live. The thumbnail is Roddy Piper in the sunglasses. So interesting take on exactly who are, you know, they. The ever ambiguous, dubious, ubiquitous, mysterious they. D-Rec, it's been cringe for a while now. Yeah, man, I know. Yeah, they kind of jumped the shark. Well, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about those guys, man, but you know, when people do you dirty and publicly pretend to be your friends, it really there's just something about phony backstabbery that just really, you know, chaps my ass, dude, right? Yeah, that's the one. They could use someone with charisma and energy. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, man. And honestly, Rocket Brother, dude, I tend to believe you, and like I feel bad if you're legit. I really do. But at the same time, I have literally been burned and swatted by the same sort of thing multiple times in the past. So like, nothing personal, no offense to you, bro. It's just I got to see how this plays out before I go like letting people that I don't really know in. No offense. Okay, enough said. V Thomas, do we know what light is yet? Yeah, I know, right? I think that the key to light is probably going to be the light within. So like we have sort of bioluminescence within the pineal gland, which is part of the processing center of like the visual type stuff, if I've got this right. But like the visual cortex relies on light within, and so whatever light is, I think that there's a connection between the source and light within. I don't know. I think that that's probably key to why we can't put a finger on, you know, why light behaves as both a particle and a wave, and so it is neither. So like, you're right, it can't be either. So yeah, I don't know, but no, we damn sure don't. But we do know definitely that like things like the speed of light are pseudoscience, right? Definitely so. So anyway. Oh, yeah, Rocket. Okay, so you sent me a lot of stuff to help me out. Wait, what did you send me again? I'm sorry. Maybe I have you confused with someone else, but what else did you send me other than this thing that never arrived? And I'm not trying to be a dick here about it. I'm just seriously wondering. You're making this claim that you sent me a lot of things to help me. What specifically are you talking about? Okay, and enough. I'm just honestly, I'm not like, this stream is not about you, dude. No offense or anything. Okay. Oh, thanks, V Thomas. I appreciate it, man. Bootyful. Okay. So let me share screen here. And hopefully it doesn't crash. If my computer crashes, just give me 5 minutes and I'll pop right back in. It's just a minor setback. Not a big deal. There we go. Okay. So again, this is just, I'm trying to get the pulse on this sort of mainstream New York Times article from yesterday. So the wildfires, link in the description, the wildfires burning in and around Los Angeles have razed entire neighborhoods, killed at least 27 people, and forced desperate evacuations. The two largest rank among the most deadly and destructive blazes in California history. The sights of thick columns of smoke, eerie orange skies, and beloved landmarks in ashes have instilled a new sense of vulnerability in residents, many of whom are used to fires but unaccustomed to so much devastation. Firefighters in recent days have been able to contain the smaller blazes and to make progress on the two largest, and dangerous winds were subsiding on Thursday, but it could take weeks before people can return to the hardest hit areas, according to the experts. So this caption here reads, firefighters working to extinguish a hotspot on the Palisades fire in Topanga. Last week, a series of large and small fires began to form a ring of fire around Los Angeles. I guess that's what Johnny Cash was singing about. The largest is the Palisades fire, according to the Pacific Coast west of downtown, which as of Friday had burned more than 23,000 acres and was 31% contained, according to the local officials. The fire forced evacuations along Pacific Coast Highway, including in Pacific Palisades, Malibu, and Santa Monica. You know, I just can't imagine the devastation, man. Like, you know, we had it pretty rough, just breaking from the quote here. We had it pretty rough after Hurricane Helene, right? But at least, like, everything wasn't burnt to a damn crisp. That's crazy, dude. Like, I just can't imagine. And, you know, those poor bastards, right? I mean, they are, no offense to my California people watching, but, you know, they already have enough problems with all the hurricanes and whatnot, right? What a absolute tragedy, dude. So the next largest fire is to the east. The Eaton fire in the San Gabriel Mountains north of Pasadena. It has burned more than 14,000 acres, destroyed thousands of homes, and displaced tens of thousands of people in evacuations. The fire's growth started to slow on January 9th, allowing firefighters to increase containment, which reached 65% by Friday, so yesterday, right? Yes. Another blaze, the auto fire in Ventura County, northwest of LA, started late Monday and had grown to 61 acres by Tuesday, according to CAL FIRE. But the fire's progress was quickly stopped and no buildings were threatened, according to the Ventura County Fire Department. By Friday, the fire was fully contained, according to CAL FIRE. The Hearst fire, which started at the northern edge of the metropolitan area near Sylmar, burned about 800 acres. 800 acres is a shit ton, dude. I like even just 800. And I know that's not the biggest one, but that's huge. I mean, like, especially in an urban area, it's crazy. But that one was fully contained by Thursday, according to Angeles National Forest. Fire crews also fully contained a number of smaller blazes. The Kenneth Fire, which broke out last week in the West Hills neighborhood of the San Fernando Valley. The Lydia Fire, the Angeles National Forest, the Sunset Fire, which ignited more than a week ago in the Hollywood Hills, and the Archer Fire, which broke out Friday morning in Grenada Hills. So how many homes have been destroyed? Preliminary estimates of the scale of damage wrought by the Palisades and Eaton fires put each among the 5 most destructive in California history. The Palisades fire has damaged or destroyed over 4,100 structures, according to the LA County, and the Eaton fire has bruised or destroyed about 8,000 structures, a category that includes homes, garages, and businesses. The Eaton fire devastated an enclave at Altadena in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains that has long been a magnet for middle-class Black families. as if that, like, why does that even make the news? Like, I really don't understand. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm weird, but like, what does the color of their skin have to do with this story at all? At all? Like, what? Like, how does that even make it in there? For what reason? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just like, color me confused, honestly. Like, I just don't get it. The Palisades fire destroyed local landmarks in some of the most affluent areas of LA. And they got insurance. They'll be fine. Oh, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They include Palisades Charter High School, the alma mater of numerous celebrities, and a filming location for many television shows, including Modern Family. Never heard of it. The fire also destroyed the ranch house that the entertainer Will Rogers owned until his death in 1935. Oh, everybody knows Will Rogers. Poor guy. I didn't know he was dead. And the Topanga Ranch Motel, which appeared in a number of films over the decades. Wow. And don't you just love how they turned the whole story into some Hollywood nostalgia Americana bullshit? It just makes me sick. It really does. Like, real people's, thousands and thousands of real people's lives are just upended, and they want to tell the story off into some bullshit about, was it Roy Rogers, whatever dude's name is? They named a fucking non-alcoholic beverage after his ass. Was it like Cherry Coke or something? I don't know, man. A Shirley Temple? Yeah. Anyway, the National Guard and law enforcement agencies have been enforcing curfews and trying to keep evacuated neighborhoods locked down until residents can safely return. Real talk though, man. Prayers go up for, our brothers and sisters in Cali, man. They are definitely suffering, and I don't mean anything negative or offensive by this, but if you've lived, hypothetically, if you've lived a very sheltered life, free of any sort of strife or angst or trauma, or like, I don't know. But if you've lived a very sheltered life and then some shit like this happen, I mean, it's crazy enough to have some shit like this happen, like a major disaster upending everything, right? That's crazy enough. But like, if that's the only thing that you've ever really had to deal with, other than, what color you're going to paint your fucking fence or something, I don't know. That's it. It even hits a lot harder, I think. So I just think that we should really be doing anything we can, to help the victims of this thing. Whatever the cause is of it, whether it's 100% natural or whether it's 100% due. I think the main thing is that there's real victims here. Even fucking Roy Rogers, who's only been dead for 100 years. Poor guy, right? His fucking ranch burned down or whatever. Shit. Fucking Gene Autry's butt buddy or whatever, right? Enforcing curfews. I mean, obviously there's probably been, I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating here, but I would imagine there was a whole fuck ton of looting, right? Excuse my language. I'm sorry, y'all. I cuss like a sailor. I'm trying to stop. That's just how I talk when I don't know. I sort of tend to deflect trauma with like cussing it out, I guess. I don't know, man. At least 47 people had been arrested in the areas affected by the Eaton and Palisades fires. Sheriff Luna of LA County reported on Thursday. Charges have included looting, identity theft, possession of narcotics. Really, you gonna bust them for some damn drugs? Give me a break, man. Give me a break. Possession of burglary tools, according to officials. Honestly, I think if the worst thing you're worried about in the LA fires is some drugs, yeah, I mean, okay, I get it. Go after the burglars, go after the looters. But come on, man. Leave the potheads alone, bro. Well, I guess pot's legal there. So what are we talking about when they're talking about narcotics? Oh, it's probably like meth and fentanyl. And yeah, fuck it. Get him. Get him, dude. Really? Okay. I can't stand none of that shit, honestly. I mean, not that I want to see anybody arrested for some damn drugs, but you know, I could really care less about meth and fentanyl, though. For real. Okay. The LA County District Attorney has announced several prosecutions related to the fires, primarily on charges of looting. Yeah. Oh, look at the bedoogles. Ain't they pretty? A couple of labs. Yeah. Search and rescue. The caption here for this picture is the search and rescue effort on Wednesday at a destroyed mobile home park in Palisades. Yeah. Just gone, dude. That's so bizarre, though, that the trees are still just standing, though, right? That is kind of bizarre. I mean, yeah, you don't expect trees to just, you know, vaporize in a wildfire, but to see the secondary and tertiary branches still in existence after such a fire that just destroyed entire neighborhoods is pretty suspect, man. Just, you know, I'm a layman, you know, it's just an observation I'm making from this one picture, but that is kind of sus, isn't it? At least 27 people have been killed in the fires. The Eaton fires killed at least 17, making it one of the deadliest in California's history. And at least 10 have died in the Palisades blaze. Officials say the death toll is likely to rise. The LA County Sheriff's Department also said Thursday, so the day before yesterday, that at least 24 people were missing in the Eaton fire area, and at least 7 were missing in the Palisades fire area. Details have begun to emerge about those killed. 5 of the victims of the Eaton fire lived within blocks of each other in a close-knit neighborhood in Altadena. The dead in the Palisades fire included a hang glider. I was about to dyslexify that, and instead of say hang glider, I was going to say gang glider. Whatever in the heck a gang glider is. Okay. A gang glider, a surfer, and a former child star from Australia. Wait a minute, what? That's like 3 random ass things you would not expect to hear in a sentence about a wildfire, right? So let me just run that one back to make sure I'm not hallucinating it. The dead in the Palisades fire included a hang glider, a surfer, and a former child star from Australia. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but why is that so, like, darkly funny, dude? Like, what? Okay, I'm sorry, man. Oof. So why did so many wildfires break out at about the same time? And by about the same time, what they mean to say is at exactly the same fucking time, dude. Exactly, right? So it says forecasters warned for days before the first fires erupted last week that fire danger would be very high. They cautioned that wind gusts could reach 50 to 80 miles an hour and even 100 miles an hour or more in some places in the mountains. I hear my phone blowing up. Like, I'm just wondering, am I like sitting here talking with my mic muted or something? Let me just check my text and make sure that y'all aren't trying to tell me something important. Sorry. I think there's like a bug in my eye or something, dude. What is that? Okay. So no, I was just sitting here thinking maybe I was getting some sort of like pertinent feedback from the stream, but I think we're good. Okay. And let me get some thumbs up in the stream here if y'all don't mind. If you can see and hear me, and if you're still here, give us some thumbs. Give us some thumbs, man. Come on. Come on. Let me see them now, fools. All right. So it says forecasters warned. This is New York Times, link in the descripts. Forecasters warned for days before the fires erupted last week that stranger danger would be very high. Okay, the winds, and vegetation built up over 2 consecutive wet winters had turned to tinder. They turned to tinder. Oh no, they turned to grinder after months of drought this year. The combination of high winds, dry air, and ample fuel combined to make a critical fire weather event likely in Southern California. Just breaking from the article real quick, man. You know, I remember a few years ago when NorCal had their devastating fires that, God, you remember the videos of that? Where like people were driving out and like everything was just on fire, dude. What? Well, my buddy lives up there. Speaking of which, this stream is brought to you by Flat Earth Farms in NorCal. Tank so fire, you'll realize the earth is flat. Buy some for your globe-tard friends at select distribution centers in the great state of California. Right. Anyways, wait, hold on. Cheers. If I don't blow this fan directly on my PC, it'll overheat, dude. Rough. Okay. Late fall and early winter tend to be when catastrophic fires are most likely to break out in California. Cooler weather coincides with the arrival of the Santa Ana winds, the strong, dry gusts that blow southwest from Nevada and Utah, thanks Utah, into the Southern California, and are linked to the region's most devastating fires. You know, all the worst things come from Utah. No, I'm kidding, dude. I'm totally kidding. The deadliest and most destructive fire in California's recent history, which destroyed the town of Paradise, of course it did, and the foothills of the Sierras, broke out in mid-November of 2018. But, you know, to finish the thought that I was saying before about the fires a few years back in NorCal, Flat Earth Farms was totally gone, dude, after that. Like, Daryl up there lost everything. Like, it's kind of a miracle that he was able to bounce back, and he's doing, from what I gather, very well for himself yet again. I think. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I know that the crops are damn good. The vegetables, you know what I mean? All kinds of vegetables. Okay, so anyway, late fall and early winter tend to be when catastrophic fires are most likely to break out in California. Oh, I just read this. Yeah, the Santa Ana winds. November, yeah. So we already read that. Firefighters. This is one long-ass article. I think we're down to the end, though. Firefighters. Oh, wait. What a pretty picture. Look at the curvature. Look at the curvature of the earth. Such a ball. Such a ball. Okay. That is a pretty picture. The view from the Santa Monica Mountains on Tuesday. Until the sun comes up over Santa Monica Boulevard. Now y'all got that song stuck in your head too. Okay, was that Sheryl Crow? I don't know. Firefighters have made progress containing the blazes since winds first started to ease last weekend. And the biggest fires have not significantly grown in size in days. Well, that's always good. So to finally finish that point I just mentioned, but the thing that I remember reading years ago was that there was like this problem with the bureaucrats not wanting to do controlled burns, or like not wanting to pay or like not wanting to even budget for the fire chiefs to do their controlled burns, right? And so if you just fail to do controlled burns for like several years, it's literally like a powder keg. It's just a matter of time before you have something like this happen, right? And, you know, hypothetically, with the technologies that we definitely know exist in the likes of, you know, like HARP and that sort of thing, you know, it's not a huge leap, or it's not like a huge conspiracy theory to suggest that they could foment conditions that are conducive to wildfires, and then using existing technologies ignited in such a way that it would be, you know, it would have the most devastating effect. Like hypothetically, this is not far out in left field conspiracy theory, as so many, you know, normie McNormalsons would love us to believe. And, you know, when you realize that the government leaders that we're stuck with are not just inept and useless, but like they're actually corrupt, like borderline, probably evil is a good word, but definitely compromised at least. You know, it's just not, it's not a huge leap, dude. Like it actually makes a lot more sense to suggest that, you know, this sort of evil isn't just happening accidentally or, you know, by happenstance or whatever. Anyway, back to the quote. There is more relief in sight, they say. Wind speeds dropped on Thursday and were expected to remain low through the weekend, and humidity was forecast to rise as well. You know, here's what I don't understand. Why didn't they just send a damn hurricane over there, right? I mean, they could probably do that if they really wanted to. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's the end of that one. Okay, and then before we get into the next article, I just wanted to update, and I'll do this with y'all, but I just wanted to sort of get an update on what's going on with OSIRIS-REx Bennu, right? So for those of y'all that don't remember, I've been following this story for a number of years. Basically, OSIRIS-REx is, I'll never remember what it stands for, but I'm going to have to read this off to you. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so OSIRIS-REx stands for Origins Spectral Interpretation Resource Identification Security Regolith Explorer Missions. That's what it stands for. But literally, okay. So literally in Egyptian mythology, Osiris is the god of the underworld, often depicted as a mummified king who was murdered by his jealous brother Set, dismembered and then brought back to life by his wife Isis, allowing him to rule over the afterlife and judge the souls of the dead. Now, one part that they didn't put in the AI overview was the whole thing about the obelisks, right? So, you know, like the Washington Monument or like Egyptian obelisks, they're like the big pointy rectangular, usually made out of stone things, obelisks. Well, so allegedly, according to the Egyptian myth, the one portion of Osiris that his wife could never find was like, you know, the most important part, if you catch my drift. And so if I remember the myth correctly, she basically fashioned him a new one out of gold, I think, something like that. I could be way off on this, but essentially when you see a obelisk, you know, like the Washington Monument, that is representative of Osiris's lost man part. That's what it is. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay, so you'll never look at the Washington Monument the same way again, I can assure you. God, could you imagine the poor woman? Whew. Right? Okay. Anyway. So of course, NASA is always going to associate their missions and their little cockmobiles with ancient mythological figures, right? Because that's how everybody sciences, don't they? I mean, the most important element of the scientific method is your occult characters, right? Duh. Okay. So now that you have the background on that, OSIRIS-REx is still off in space, allegedly. It's one of NASA's many Lie-mobiles that a couple of years ago now, it's been a while, they got it very close to this asteroid called Bennu, allegedly. And they basically took a sample off of the asteroid Bennu and then launched a return capsule back to Earth. And it was, God, like towards the end of 2023, I think, when they finally got the thing back after years and years and millions of dollars. But then they spent months and months like trying to get this return science capsule open. Like they couldn't open the damn thing. And so like, but even before they got it open, they knew how old the dirt was. They knew that this particular dirt was going to answer lots of standing questions about the origins of our planet and the origins of the universe, even from dirt. And they knew all this before they had even opened the science capsule to get at the damn dirt, right? So here we are now into 2025, and I'm just trying to get an update on what exactly happened with our multi-billion-dollar science project that was, OSIRIS-REx asteroid Bennu sample. So the AI potentially hallucinogenic overview reads like this. So AI overview for NASA News Bennu OSIRIS-REx update. Here are some recent updates about NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission to asteroid Bennu. Sample curation. The initial curation of the Bennu sample is taking longer than expected because the sample is so large. Wait a minute. Okay, so I know this is an AI overview, but so you're telling me the more, like the bigger the sample is, the more difficult it is to get a reading on it? So maybe they should have just taken a much smaller sample and they would have been done a long time ago, right? That's crazy to me, but okay. What do I know? Okay, simple analysis. The OSIRIS-REx sample analysis team found that the Bennu sample contains carbon, nitrogen, organic compounds, and phosphate, which are essential for life. And, isn't that exactly what we expected? Like, I don't know if I actually voiced this on the record prior to the thing coming back, but I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines of, like, wouldn't it be funny if they found the origins for life on the asteroid? And of course, before they even get the damn thing open, they're telling you that they found organic compounds. So, yeah, intelligent transpermia narrative, anybody? Intelligent transpermia for 500, Alex. Okay. Oh, rip Alex Trebek, too. Sample container lid. The lid of the OSIRIS-REx sample container was unstuck on January 11th, 2024. So it's been a year and a week since they unstuck the container that they had struggled with for months to even open the damn thing. Sample storage. The Bennu sample is being stored at NASA's Johnson. Full stop. No, NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Okay. Sample distribution. The Bennu sample will be distributed to scientists around the world. And, I wonder if it's going to be another one of these instances where NASA ends up getting caught handing out petrified wood as moon rocks. Yeah. Sample requests. The deadline for the first round of proposals for Bennu samples in 2024 was June 25th, 2024. So if you were planning on requesting you a sample of Bennu from NASA, you missed the deadline, folks. It's never going to happen in round 1. Maybe you'll get a crack at round 2. What's next? The Bennu sample may provide clues about the origins of our solar system and the sources of water and organic molecules on Earth. On Earth. In 2135, Bennu is expected to make a close approach to the Earth. More information. You can read more about the OSIRIS-REx mission at NASA's science.gov. So it's been a full year and a week since they got the thing opened. And what is the news? Like, where is the news? Like, what have we learned? Because, again, we've definitely spent dozens of billions of dollars just on OSIRIS-REx and just on retrieving that sample from asteroid Bennu. Like, Lord knows, if you were able to actually quantify and parse out exactly how much money has gone into that, oh, bro, could you imagine? Dude, the amount of pickled olives you can get with that amount of money, dude. So basically, what I'm getting then is there is no news about OSIRIS-REx Bennu sample a year and a week since they opened the damn thing. Okay, so here's the official word from nasa.gov. Let's see here. I love the opening line too. It's just our tax dollars at work. Oh, show. Here it is right here. Oh, I can't stand looking at them, dude. I'm sorry. No offense to anybody that's got fam working at NASA, but what a pack of something bad. I'm not even going to say it. Pack of something bad. A gaggle of something bad, dude. Okay. So here we go. NASA.gov. NASA shares asteroid Bennu sample in exchange with JAXA, Japanese Space Agency. As part of an asteroid sample exchange, NASA has transferred JAXA, Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, a portion of the asteroid Bennu sample collected by the agency's OSIRIS-REx mission. The sample was officially handed over by NASA officials during a ceremony on August 22nd at JAXA's Sagamihara, Japan campus. Good-looking group. Good-looking group. So this, the caption here reads, the signature exchange for the Bennu sample transfer took place on August 22nd, 2024 at JAXA's, yeah, we already read that part anyway. So this asteroid sample transfer follows the November 2021 exchange where JAXA transferred to NASA a portion of the sample retrieved from asteroid Ryugu by its Hayabusa 2 spacecraft. This agreement allows NASA and JAXA to share achievements and promote scientific and scientific technological cooperation on asteroid sample return missions. The scientific goals of the 2 missions. So here's where the pseudoscience and gaslighting and fraud enters the picture. When you start using the terminology of science in order to glean stolen valor or undue credibility to your argument or claim, that is necessarily pseudoscience and fraud inherently. So that says the scientific goals of these 2 missions are to understand the origins and histories of primitive, organic rich asteroids and what role they may have played in the formation of the planets. So just to sort of give you a little background of where I'm coming from and why I'm saying that's fraud and pseudoscience, because first we must all understand and agree on what exactly is science. And what it is, the scientific method is very, very much objective, well defined, and can be utilized by any old person who cares to learn what the process is and adhere to it. There are inherent checks and balances within the scientific method that assure that it cannot be used to deceive people and can only be used to prove things conclusively beyond the shadow of any doubt. That is what science is, okay? But when you start applying things like theoretical physics as science, then that is pseudoscience and fraud. Because theoretical physics is an oxymoron, for one thing, but it exists solely in the realm of intangibility, of non-demonstrability and non-falsifiability, right? And so by its very nature, anything that's happening, in the heavens, in the infinite space universe theory, is never going to be, independently verified or confirmed to any degree of satisfaction. All right. And so by that sort of logic, everything that this article is on about is pseudoscience and fraud. I mean, not saying that the person that wrote the article is being fraudulent, but this concept that theories about biological materials in asteroids somehow being science is absurd, okay? Science only can establish cause and effect relationships between naturally observed phenomenon and their potential triggers. That's it. Anything beyond that being claimed to be science is fraud. Simple as that. So, for them to say organic rich asteroids and what role they may have played in the formation of the planets, yeah, again, without geological curvature or axial rotation, for starters, then this whole concept of geothermal, I got a tongue twister. This concept of like terra firma geological balls flying around in space that, lying Freemasons can walk around on is just fantasy, right? It is a pre-programmed delusion that was installed especially into the American people starting in like the 1940s and 50s with the likes of sci-fi movies and sci-fi fucking what's the word I'm looking for? Sci-fi franchises, right? And that sort of predictive programming coupled with a lot of fear porn, the likes of the Sputnik satellite scare and all that stuff. Yeah, they were laying it on pretty damn thick on the American people to sort of prep them for, space travel and even this sort of alien invasion thing that we're seeing the edges of right now, right? Back to the quote, we valued our continued collaboration, and this is a quote within the quote, we valued our continued collaboration with JAXA on asteroid sample return missions. Okay, I'll stop that. To both increase our science return and reduce risk on these and other missions, said Kathleen van der Kayden, chief scientist for astromaterials curation in the Science Mission Directorate of NASA's headquarters in Washington. I'm streaming right now. You're going to have to go. You got to go. No, there is none. You got to go. She continues, JAXA has extensive curation capabilities, and we look forward to what we will learn from the shared analysis of the OSIRIS-REx samples. So basically, I'm just trying to scan through this. Okay, so the origins, spectral interpretation, resource identification, and security regolith explorer, or OSIRIS-REx spacecraft delivered 4.29 ounces of material from Bennu, more than double the mission's mass requirement, as well as 24 steel Velcro pads containing dust from the dust from its contact with Bennu. As part of the agreement, the Astromaterials Research and Exploration Science Division at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston transferred to JAXA 0.023 ounces, or 0.66 grams, of the Bennu sample, equaling 0.55% of the total sample mass, and one of the contact pads. Real quick, you guys hold that thought. I am just going to re-up on some coffee, and I will be white black. I suggest y'all do the same. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, catch my breath a second. Whew, let me tell you though, that bug that hit me a couple days ago, dude, I for real pity anybody that has to go through that doesn't have some kind of something to deal with it. very lucky to have that. And I wish honestly, I really do. I hate to be that guy to like keep mentioning something like that and not tell you what it is, but I literally can't do it, man. They will definitely shut my whole damn channel down. So definitely holler. Holler at me offline or whatever, and I'll fill you in. Okay, so Hayabusa 2 collected 0.19 ounces, or what is like almost a quarter of Ryagu. It's like a fat eighth, I guess. No, of Ryugu between two samples, and in 2021, JAXA provided NASA with 23 millimeter sized grains plus aggregate sample material from Ryugu, enabling both countries to get the most out of the samples and share the responsibility of sample curation. So yeah, these motherfuckers get paid millions of dollars to study dirt and make grandiose claims about the dirt housing the origins of lives, because housing the origin of life in general, because they found this particular dirt in space. Yeah, okay, sure you did. You found all that dirt in space, NASA. We believe you, dude. Okay. Scientists inspect the Bennu sample during its arrival to JAXA's Institute of Space and Astronautical Science. And, honestly, even these card-carrying bona fide scientists probably are not, actively participating in any sort of deception, right? At least in my opinion, 99% of them have perfect plausible deniability, because just like everyone else, we were all, reared on planet Earth to where you're never going to make it through college to land a job working at a space agency unless you fully toe the entire Copernican line, right? There's no way around it. And it's like, even if you go and try to tell these people the truth, they never believe you. And maybe the 1 in 1,000 that finally does get it, it's not like they're going to go shouting it from any rooftops. They'll ruin their career and their credibility instantly, right? So it is kind of the perfect deception, but I think that the tides have turned a bit to where now it's a little bit more socially acceptable. It's almost seen as like, I don't know, a rebellious thing to do. I mean, I'd much rather see kids rebelling against the system by becoming flurfers than, like, I don't know, self-mutilation or whatever it is the kids do these days. Thanks, Caitlyn Jenner. Really, I'm kidding. Caitlyn Jenner is a strong, independent thinking woman. Okay, so JAXA's portion of the Bennu samples will be housed in the newly expanded clean rooms in the extraterrestrial sample curation center on the JAXA's Sagamihara campus. The JAXA team received the samples enclosed in non-reactive nitrogen gas and will open them in similarly nitrogen-filled clean chambers accessed with airtight gloves. JAXA will now work to create an initial description of the sample, including weight measurements, imaging with both visible light and infrared light microscopes, and infrared spectroscopy. The sample will then be distributed through a completely selected... Wait, I lost my spot there. Wait a minute. Distributed through a competitively selected process for detailed analysis at other research institutes to study the differences and similarities between asteroids Bennu and Ryugu. So that was basically like a very long and convoluted way to say like a whole lot of fucking nothing, right? Like, so what exactly have they accomplished with this sample that they've been deliberating on for over a year since they got the damn science capsule, whatever the fuck that means, open, right? Quote, "Thank you for safely bringing the precious asteroid samples from Bennu to Earth and then to Japan, the land of the rising sun." And Tomohiro Usuyu, sorry if I butchered his name, Astromaterials Science Research Group Manager, Institute of Space and Astronautical Science, JAXA. JAXA, dude. "As fellow curators, we understand the tension and responsibility that accompany these tasks. Now, it is our turn at JAXA. We will go ahead with our plans to derive significant scientific outcomes from these valuable samples." Okay, so whole lot of nothing. Some more meaningless ass word salad, huh? Yeah. Okay, so asteroids are debris left over from the dawn of the solar system. See, they already know that. There's no sense in even trying to do any sort of dirt forensics, right? We already know that. Everybody knows that asteroids are debris left over from the dawn of the solar system. The sun and its planets formed a cloud of dust and gas about 4.6 billion years ago, and asteroids are thought to date back to the first few million years of our solar system's history. Sample return missions like OSIRIS-REx and Hayabusa 2 help provide new data on how the solar system's evolution unfolded. Wow, I mean, what a load of crap, right? For some interesting thoughts on how like that particular paragraph is such nonsense, check out a video I did a few years back called "Which Came First, the Gravity or the Sphere?" Right? So it's similar to the chicken and egg conundrum, but it has to do with gravity and spheres, hence the name. And so like the crux of it is, so like according to Einsteinian gravitational theory and the accepted narrative on how things like stars and planets were formed in the standard sort of Copernican shtick, right? Well, what they say is like you have these nebulous clouds of amorphous gas in the deep recesses of infinite space, the vacuum of space, right? The problem is you can't really have clouds of amorphous disparate gas in a vacuum, right? Because one of the basic fundamental characteristics of gases is they expand to fill their container, right? And so you just can't have clouds of gas in the infinite vacuum of space. Now, of course, scientists have theories as to how they make this work with sort of quasi-solid state matter crystal particles in these nebulous clouds, but okay, so we'll give them the nebula clouds in the vacuum of space just for the sake of argument, although that is a basic law of thermodynamics violation, basic law of entropy violation, and we could go on, but fine, we'll give them that one. And they say within these nebulous clouds, the action of gravity causes these little particles to start clumping together, and then bigger particles form clumping together, and clumping and clumping and clumping, and so on and so forth, until they clump together a star, which somehow kicks off the whimsical, non-demonstrable act of hot atomic fusion, and then jettisons off into the paddies at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour away from its birthing nebula, right? So like, there's all kinds of problems with that, because everybody knows you can't demonstrate gravity working on little particulate levels, right? You got to have big spherical balls, you know, in order to have some gravity, don't you? And so like, my question is, at what point does gravity take over and start causing things to clump together, right? So like if I take a big ass bowling ball, like let's say I've got a 10-ton bowling ball, right, or something. If I start sprinkling fucking baker's flour around it, is it going to start orbiting the bowling ball at some point? Like, how big do you have to make the ball before that starts happening, right? But no, like according to scientists, these nebulous clouds of gas in the infinite vacuum of space, which do violate some basic laws of physics, you know, these nebulous gases start clumping together because of gravity, right? But you can't demonstrate that anywhere. And what causes the sun to accelerate away from its birthing nebula anyway? And what kicks off that process of hot atomic fusion, which can't be demonstrated in a lab? Yeah, it is all very much Narnia is what it is. But then planet formation is even more so ridiculous Narnia bullshit than that. Because you gotta, you know, so you just had your sun being born, your star being born, and we'll hand them all that nonsense for the sake of argument. And sort of trailing behind the sun as it jettisons away from its birthing nebula, you have all this dust trailing behind it like a comet. Well, but no, not like a comet, because instead of a trail of dust behind the star like a comet, you've got this perfect planar ring of dust around the star, like a ring of Saturn, right? Flying through space with a perfect planar ring around it. And this planar ring of gases, which also cannot exist in the vacuum of space that they claim is there either, yet another basic laws of physics violation. We find that these gases now begin to clump together, you know, in the ring around the sun. They clump together to form the planet. So just all kinds of nonsensical theoretical acrobatics that you have to get on board with in order to believe that your ass lives stuck to the side of a spinning sphere flying around in space 5 directions at once. And, you know, the only reason they were able to get away with it for so long is because they tricked us all when we were little kids, right? Pretty jacked up thing to do, but whatever. I'm pretty forgiving. And it's not like your science teacher was doing that shit deliberately, right? Because, see, they are a product of this cerebral meat grinder as well, aren't they? So yeah, it's a foregone conclusion that asteroids are debris left over from the dawn of the solar system. Everybody knows that. The sun and its planets formed from a cloud of dust and gas about 4.6 billion years ago. And asteroids are thought to date back to the first few million years of our solar system's history. And by the way, scientists and lientists have been studying the solar system firsthand for exactly 0.00 million years, by the way. Okay. Sample return missions like OSIRIS-REx and Hayabusa 2 help provide new data on how the solar system's evolution unfolded. Initial analysis of the Bennu samples has revealed dust rich in carbon and nitrogen. Exactly the type of shit you might expect to find on planet Earth, right? Members of the OSIRIS-REx sample analysis team have also found evidence of organic molecules and minerals bearing phosphorus and water, which together could indicate the building blocks essential for life. Yeah, it's what they've been trying to do for ages, dude. Like, I know some very intelligent, decent people who are fully imbued with the sort of ancient alien theory, right? I mean, they believe that that is the origins of humans and civilization and everything, right? I mean, sure, a lot of these people will go to church on Sunday and go through the motions as if they are, you know, evangelical Christians, but really they kind of think that's all nonsense, and they really kind of adhere to, well, the sort of esoteric new age narrative that we see echoed in so many of these sort of like zeitgeists, right? So like you've got what's the guy's name? It's a Z word. He's the guy von Daniken, right? The guy that wrote Chariots of the Gods, which is like sort of the foundation for a lot of the work that was done in the Ancient Aliens show on History Channel or whatever, right? But isn't it kind of funny that this whole Ancient Aliens narrative is so very similar to what the Mormons are on about, and really what L. Ron Hubbard is on about, and even those weird ass cults that, you know, wear their Nikes to bed, right? Whatever those freaking weirdos were doing. Anyways, members of the OSIRIS-REx sample analysis team have also found evidence of organic molecules and minerals. Okay, so both the Bennu sample. Oh, okay, yeah, both the Bennu sample and the asteroid Ryugu sample delivered. Shit. I didn't lost my place. Okay, yeah. Both the Bennu sample and the asteroid Ryugu sample delivered by JAXA's Hayabusa 2 mission appear to have come from an ancient parent object formed beyond the current orbit of Saturn that was broken up and transported into the inner solar system. The differences between these asteroids are emerging as the detailed chemistry is analyzed. So basically, that was like, I don't know, what, 1,000 words saying absolutely fuck-ass nothing, dude? From where I'm sitting, that's kind of what it seems like. So basically, for billions and probably dozens of billions of dollars and over a year and a week since that they've opened the science capsule, and we get this tall order of nothing burgers? Really? Absolutely crazy, dude. No. I'm gonna put the nicotine patch on when I get done with the stream. I'm gonna do some of that oil therapy, right? And I'm going to bed, man. Like, this bug, like, even though I'm definitely grateful that I had a panacea to use on it and I'm basically over it, it's still got my immune system, like, and my endocrine system out of whack. But I'm pretty sure if I get another good solid 8 or 10 hours of straight good, like, REM sleep, I think I'll be 100% over this one. But I'm definitely gonna quit the cigarettes, man. I'm doing it. I've weaned down. This right here is my 5th cigarette that I've had in about 24 hours. So good job to me. Okay, there's another article here, but you know, I don't know if I'm going to touch on this article today. I may save this one for the next. I think we've given NASA and them way enough credit, or way enough, you know, run time on today's stream altogether. So what I think I'm going to do now is let's go over to the main thing that I wanted to cover and share and respond to with you guys today, which is the Admiral Byrd documentary of the Operation High Jump or whatever from the 1950s. So I'm just going to play this and respond in kind. I thought this thing was like 30 or 45 minutes long, but it turns out that it's really only like 15, I guess. I could have sworn that it was longer than this, so I may not have the whole thing. But the 14 minute 57 second one was the only one that I could find anywhere, or like the longest one that I could find. So if anybody knows, like if it turns out that I'm missing half of this thing or whatever, and if anybody knows where to access the full docu version, hit me up. I'd appreciate it.
The Hershey blows things a lookout. The Hershey breaches close aboard. These huge whales measure up to 80 feet long, and each yields oil worth more than $2,000.
See, this, like, right
the radar watch informs the bridge they have picked up a big ship, a Norwegian whaler, with her killer craft in close company. The Norsemen report the heaviest ice pack in 40 years. This year, they tell the Americans they're staying to the north of the ice. The Norwegian captain urges, exercise extreme caution. The American fleet proceeds. Here is the most treacherous navigation in all the 7 seas, with every floe, every berg a potential killer of ships. 7/8 of the berg lies underwater. Its jutting ice foot can slice into a ship like a can opener into a can. Ahead, the sky shows white streaks, the telltale ice flake, the warning reflection in the sky of the great pack. The ships meet their first tabular, the tabletop berg found only in the Antarctic. These tabulars are huge chips from the great ice barrier. They measure as long as 40 miles and are counted not in acres, but in square miles. The ships must follow a twisting, turning sea alley, cleared by the icebreaker. The submarine, Senate, brings up the rear. U-formed ice, known from its shape as lily pad ice, offers no trouble. It is the bergy bits and the bergs themselves that form the hazard for the submarine.
See, I feel like we missed the first half of this thing. I'm certain that there was more to this before, but like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we only missed a few minutes, but okay, so they had to have icebreakers escort them in, right? So that's very interesting to me.
A little Adelaide penguin comes aboard as pilot, rides the deck for 2 solid days. Navy cameramen find new subjects. A group of emperor penguins feeding in the lead. Look out for a flock of snow petrels, those hardiest of birds. Admiral Cruzen orders reconnaissance by helicopter and himself boards the plane as observer. For the first time, the helicopter serves as the eyes of the fleet to scout out a way through the ice.
So y'all seeing this? So before they could even take their icebreaker, you know, to where they were trying to get, they sent a little chopper out ahead to, you know, to do a little bit of reconnaissance to where they could actually get to where they were trying to go, right? Or at least they were being smart about it. You know what I mean? Like, interesting. It is interesting.
Somewhere to the south, Cruzen hopes to locate better going. Perhaps a lead heading toward Little America. Beyond the brash ice, at first he can spot only isolated lakes. At last he sees his lead. Reconnaissance by helicopter has paid off. And just in time, for the helicopter's gas is running low. The long practice hours of pinpoint landing have not been wasted. The Admiral is safely back aboard. Cruzen changes course to head the fleet toward his lead. No open roadstead here, no channel markers. The turn is difficult for the big ships. Now to the men of the fleet comes one of nature's weirdest pictures, the Antarctic twilight. Eerie greens and pastel blues. Men who look grow silent, but long remember. Nor will they forget the dawns and the seals.
Dude, I so want a pet seal, man.
The voyage through the pack was to have taken 3 or 4 days, but a week has passed, and the task force has made only 100 of the 600 miles across the pack. An emergency radio to the north wind summons instant help. The submarine, Senate, is caught. The jaws of 2 ponderous pressure blows are closed in, locking her in a white vice. The submarine is in acute danger of being sunk. All hands realize now that the Senate may never get through. Cruzen signals, resume course.
I for some reason, I remember this damn documentary being way more interesting, but maybe we just got to wait through it. I don't know. Am I watching the wrong damn thing? Like, let's just see what happens. You know what I'm going to do, guys? I am going to put on a nicotine patch right now, just so that I don't smoke no more cigarettes. Let me do that right now. Never said anything about the weed, though. Sorry.
Meanwhile, the Eastern Group has steamed to Peter the First Island, 1,250 miles northeast of the main base to be established at Little America.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me just back that up a hair. I hope I don't mess nothing up. Yeah, here we go. Excuse me. So I've mentioned this before, but they sent at least 2 teams going different routes, right? So it's like one of them started from the west coast of the U.S. and one from the east coast. But so like if you plot this out on a different matrix, you know, that isn't a globe matrix, then these 2 parties may have been like thousands of miles away from one another, right? So maybe one of the things they were going to try to do was like meet up at the bottom of the world, right? But if I remember correctly, and I guess we'll see it on here unless we really are missing half of this docu. Yeah, I seem to remember that they ended up, we never hear back from that second group throughout the whole entirety of this documentary, right? Other than this mention right here, unless I just missed something, I don't know. But let's continue.
While the Eastern Group has steamed to Peter the First Island, 1,250 miles northeast of the main base to be established at Little America. The Eastern Group's seaplane tender, Pine Island, sends a helicopter to scout the rugged coast. Hope is fulfilled when she relocates Scott's 37-year-old camp. This was the base for the ill-fated Britain's expeditions at the turn of the century. While the helicopter waits, the Americans look over the hut, finding only an abandoned sled.
And by the way, y'all, this is as loud as I can make it, so I am very sorry. What I can do is turn myself down a little bit so that way you can jack your system up and I won't be making y'all deaf, right? So assuming that y'all can still hear me, crank your system up a bit. That way you can hear the narrator on this, because I've got everything juiced all the way up.
Fled. But back at the Pine Island, the helicopter meets trouble. Her rotors, heavy with ice, fail. She crashes only a few feet from the safety of the landing deck. Within seconds, the Pine Island's crash boat reaches the sinking helicopter. The rescue crewmen, drilled for just such an emergency, yank Captain Dufek and his pilot safely aboard. Back at the Central Group, danger increases for the submarine. Crushing ice is now riding up over her decks. She is solidly frozen in. The Senate's situation is desperate. Clearly, she cannot undergo further risks. There are 85 men aboard. The ice locking her in is...
Just ask y'all, can y'all even hear this enough at all, or am I just wasting everyone's time? Maybe I can find a better version of it. Let me know in the chat. I'll hold off a minute and I'll just check and see what y'all. Nimble Horse, Flowers, chamomile, and weed. Yeah. Yeah, man. Tobacco. I mean, it's a very difficult physical addiction to kick, though. Honestly, like I'm gonna kick it. I'm determined. Like I'm done with it. But yeah, it's hard, dude. It is hard. Can y'all hear the narrator on the video there at all, or am I just wasted everyone's time with this? Like honestly, Nimble Horse, the buzz that you get from smoking a cigarette, from like when you first start, is similar to something else that's highly illegal that I'm not even going to mention, but it's like, in my opinion, practically the same thing. Not that I've ever done that, but from what I've heard. No, like honestly, like smoking a cigarette, like when you first start smoking cigarettes, that head rush you get off of it, that body buzz is almost like smoking crack, honestly. It really, truly is very similar. And I think that's why it's so addictive, is because it's a very intense body high and then it's gone like that, right? Anyway. Video sound is good. Oh, thank you, Awkward Persons Project. Appreciate that. All right. God bless you. All right, here we go. Back to it then.
A solid pressure field spotted with birds. She must be taken back. The north wind cannot get the fleet through. It's constantly halted to rescue the submarine. Icebreaker North Wind, with Admiral Cruzen in operational command, leaves the ships to await her return from the 400-mile round trip, towing the battered submarine, the Senate, north to the safety of the open sea.
1,200 miles to the west, 10 men set out from the western wing of the expedition on a hunt. For one of the seaplane tender Currituck's missions is to bring back specimens for the Federal Fish and Wildlife Commission. The Marine marksmen stormed the...
Sorry to interrupt, but okay, so one thing I'm just noticing as we're taking in like all of the breathtaking visuals in 240p, it's the best I can do on this one, you guys, all I could find. But you can tell even in 240p that this is like a vast wilderness, right? Like you can just tell that shit goes on and on and on, right? It doesn't look like a film set or a green screen or some shit like that. I'm just throwing that out there for no apparent reason.
The ice floes. These seals are armed with tiger-like jaws, easily capable of mangling a man's arm or leg. The men risk the slashing jaws of the master bull himself. He's no calf, he fights to kill. Once secured, he finds out for the first time in his life what it's like to be petted. That's not so bad. They total up their catch for the scientists back in Washington. 6 leopards and 1 rare Ross seal. The first Antarctic seal ever to fly through the air with the greatest of ease in a cargo net.
3 days later, disaster presses close to the ships of the Central Group, helpless without the icebreaker. Their 2,000 men are marooned in a frozen sea. Below the waterlines, damage control crews labor in icy water to shore up the inward closing plates. The lives of all hands are at stake. The radio flashes an SOS to Cruzen 200 miles to the north. Quickly, he orders the submarine to go on by herself to Scott Island and there operate as a weather reporting station. And now begins a race against time well worthy of high place in the traditions of the United States Coast Guard.
Get on with it.
Black news from the flag ship, Mount Olympus. Already 5 frames forward stove in, more weakening. Only the north wind can bring salvation to the 2,000...
Dude, honestly, it must really suck to be a Roth SEAL, I'm just saying.
2,000 men of the stricken fleet. Dr. Seipel, Army ice veteran, volunteers to test the flows. If the ships must...
Volunteers to fall into the motherfucking ocean. No.
The ships must be abandoned. Will the ice support the survivors? Cruisin awaits Dr. Seipel's verdict. Seipel reports the ice cannot be trusted.
I gotta say, man, there is something very satisfying about watching that icebreaker just plow through that permafrost, right? I don't know, like I could probably, like, you could tie me to the fucking helm of that thing and I would just sit there all day and love it. Just watching that ice crack. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's like popping bubble wrap or whatever. It's just something about it.
With only 2 miles to go, the icebreaker is hemmed in by ice 20 feet above water, 50 feet below, in an area as great as 100 acres. Hopelessly gripped by the ice.
Like, did you see that? Look at this shit, man. Hold on, let me see. To go, the icebreaker is hemmed in by ice 20 feet above water, 50 feet below. I mean, look, so what are we looking at there? Are those like little dinghies, or is that the actual icebreaker up there? I can't really tell what I'm looking at, but look how high up they are on that shelf there. I mean, that's got to be like what? Depending on the scale of these things, but that's at least 1,000 feet, right? Maybe even like a quarter mile if this is bigger than it looks. I don't know, man. That's the scale of Antarctica is just mind-boggling, isn't it?
In an area as great as 100 acres. Hopelessly gripped by the ice, the cargo ship Merrick is now in grave peril.
Honestly, you guys, the main reason that I wanted to react to this documentary with y'all was for the interview with Byrd. So if that's not on here, I'm going to have to find that and get it on here. And like, what a shame if that's been totally scrubbed from the frickin' internet, huh?
From the icebreaker, the fleet is now in sight over the pressure ridges. The desperate struggle of the north wind to reach them seems hopeless at times. The icebreaker counts her gain by yards now. Captain Thomas dares passages that normally he would avoid. It's the critical last round, a straight-out slugging match. The north wind reaches the nearest ship, the Yancey. The Coast Guard icebreaker, North Wind, commands the only power operating in the whole frozen fleet. The Yancey and her 500 men are saved. Next, the Merrick, heavy in the water with a hole in her bow below the waterline.
So, like, there's 3 minutes left on this thing, and we haven't heard a peep out of Byrd yet. I'm just wondering if that shit is scrubbed from YouTube or what, man. Let's see.
The Philippine Sea navigates the canal in a day. Lead the way. Big black mountains that move.
So,
they walk like us, but not quite.
Okay, so what a shame. All right, let me try to find the actual thing I was looking for. Hang on. I thought that was it, y'all. My bad. The thing that I wanted to share with you guys was it was an interview with Admiral, U.S. Navy Admiral Richard Byrd. It definitely was on YouTube at some point in the past. So. Okay, here we go. So this is it. It's another 14-minute one. So I just wonder, let me try to download this. It just seems to do better if I pop it into Riverside for y'all. So let me, just bear with me, uno momento. Bear with me. I've almost got it. Just give me like one more minute, y'all. Give me just a minute while this video uploads, and then we're going to get right back into it. I promise. I no promise, man. It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. It's just weed, man. It's almost ready. It's just got to process on the server end, and then we're golden bear. So just bear with me. There we go. Okay, it's ready. It's ready. Yay. Okay, here we go. Let's go on to this one then, y'all.
It's time for the Longines Chronoscope, a television journal of the important issues of the hour, brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. A presentation of the Longines Whitnor Watch Company, maker of Longines, the world's most honored watch, and Whitnor, distinguished companion to the world-honored Longines.
And Flat Earth Farms in NorCal. Being so fire, you'll realize the Earth is flat. Buy some for your globe-tard friends at select distribution centers in California. Why did all the narrators talk like they were fucking, why did they all talk like they were announcing a damn horse race back then, dude? I don't know. I guess that was the way that they learned you how to do it. That's how they learned you how to do it back in, I reckon. All right, anyway, sorry. Culture shock, right?
Good evening, this is Frank Knight. May I introduce our co-editors for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope? Larry Lasser, CBS News correspondent, and Kenneth Crawford, National Affairs Editor of Newsweek magazine. Our very distinguished guest for this evening is Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
The North Pole used to be a no-man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. You know, only 30 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And it's...
Okay, did y'all just catch that? And I'm going to play that bit again, but it's so important. Isn't that just kind of important? Because this dude here is one of the only people who's been there, right? According to the official agreed upon history or whatever. And what did he just say? He just said, beyond the South Pole from Little America, there is a landmass larger than America that has never even been seen before. And he's kind of, it's almost as if he's not being 100% forthright, which, oh, well, yeah, duh, that's right. He's a military guy, and he's definitely under debriefing, right? So there's just certain things he can't say, and there's certain things that he's at liberty to say, and other things that he is absolutely not. But even with that in mind, and this is one of the only, if not the only times you'll hear this dude talking about that trip to the Antarctic, Operation High Jump. But let's just hear that one more time, because it is so important.
To live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And it's, I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
This is a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Well, Admiral, do you hope to see
unexplored land at the bottom of the world? I mean, I love how he added that in there. It's almost as if he was under debriefing, right? But just the mere fact that we're talking about unexplored land, and he continues on. I think he does even mention the resources. So let's just let Byrd continue. Again, highly decorated U.S. Navy Admiral. Highly decorated.
see that?
I do.
Well, Admiral,
Yeah.
would you say that since you've been to both the extremities of Earth, are these expeditions to such far-off places, are they getting easier because of modern techniques, or is danger still close at hand?
Well, it's a little risky, but nothing like it used to be with the old slow planes. and the small cruising radius where we had to put down bases. We replaced the dog teams, and of course that was a big improvement. But now the planes go much faster and they are safer, and they have a much bigger cruising radius. You haven't got the danger of a terribly heavy load.
Admiral, an expedition to which I believe you're the advisor is now en route. What is that expedition doing?
Well, that's the icebreaker Atka, and it's a reconnaissance expedition. It's going down to the South Pole area to make certain observations and to look for some bases. They will be back in April, and they will report back, and upon the information we get from that...
Did he just say to look for some bases? I mean, I guess it could be interpreted as saying, like, to scout out locations for potential bases, right? So maybe that's one way that you could read that, but it kind of sort of sounded like he said to look for bases. I don't know, man. Whatever, that doesn't, you know, I don't know. It doesn't mean anything necessarily, but also, okay.
That undertaking, we will base the bigger expedition that's to follow.
Is that very definite?
I love his accent. Tafala. He sounds like Jimmy Stewart, right? But it's like all the dudes talk like Jimmy Stewart back then, didn't they? I love that.
Planned, or is that...
that is being planned right now. So I'm willing to say to you that there will be a number of expeditions that will follow, I think, year after year.
He's a good fella. He's a good fella. Jimmy Stewart. Oh, I can't do it.
Bottom of the world, because the government has really become interested.
Well, Admiral Byrd, I can understand.
Ah, okay, so this is like, what, in the 1950s? He's sitting there saying the government has really become interested in the South Pole. And almost immediately after this interview, we got the Antarctic Treaty instead, which is basically big old fat keep out signs all around the Antarctic, you know, at least psychological keep out signs, probably not literal keep out signs with actual guns, right? But the Antarctic Treaty was where all of the civilized nations of the world who can never agree on anything, including what they had for dinner yesterday, but they could all agree that the Antarctic ought to be off limits for governments and corporations activity, right? And so instead of the Antarctic getting busy and, you know, blessed by commerce, we instead got the polar opposite of that in the form of the Antarctic Treaty.
And I think everybody can the interest in the North Pole because it's so near our greatest challenger, Soviet Russia. But why this interest in the bottom of the world? Nobody living down there, is there?
No, it's pretty cold. There's only one permanent resident, that's the emperor penguin. The little ones live further north. I tell you one reason they're interested. It's by far the most valuable, important place left in the world for science. That's why the scientific groups all over the nation are really interested. But more important than that, it has to do with the future of the nation, those to come after us, or even during your lifetime. Because it happens to be an untouched reservoir of natural resources. And, you know, as the world shrinks with an ever-increasing acceleration, far-flung places, once useless, like we thought the North Pole was, and no man's land, become very useful. The bottom of the world will be important, not only to us, but to our allies.
Does it, I was going to ask you,
what about our
does it have
enemies?
Military importance?
It has some, and as the world shrinks, it will continue to shrink with an ever-increasing acceleration, thus bringing these places closer. And in the future, I can see a time when it will be very, very important strategically.
Well, has the development of air power increased the strategic importance of places like the
oh, very much
Palma
so.
Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. Then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, And one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually?
Wow. Let me just, I need to back that up just a minute, because I missed exactly what he said, and I think that was important. So let's just hear what Admiral Byrd had to say again, one more time.
Places like the
very much
Palma
so.
Peninsula, we'll say?
Very much so. Even now, if anything happened and we lost the Panama Canal, we would have to control the islands just north of Antarctica, which are part of Antarctica. Then between there and Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world.
If we lost the Panama Canal, what? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing a big obvious context here, but I'm trying to run back like, okay, are we talking about like the Bay of Pigs or so the Cuban Missile Crisis? But that's Cuba, dude, and that's like a totally different like decade, right? So were we at risk of, I guess the Panama Canal, there was some sort of a kerfuffle about who was going to be able to like take the tolls or whatever. And I guess America wanted permanent sovereignty over the Panamanians' tolls on their own canal or some shit like that. Okay, I do seem to remember. So maybe that's what he was talking about. There was some kind of a bureaucratic disagreement on money for once ever, right?
And one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's...
Now it has, because Jaron went.
I know that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long. I understand now that you're working with the Arnold Bread Company in charge of frozen foods. Now, is there any future for frozen foods down these frozen extremities?
Well, I think the human race can be helped by that. This
Admiral Byrd was sponsored by what frozen foods? Why do I not remember hearing that the last 10 times I watched this thing? Do y'all remember hearing that? What did that dude just say? Hold on, man. I'm sorry. Like, am I tripping, or did dude just say that he was being sponsored by XYZ Frozen Foods Company? Hold on, dude. Wait a minute. Admiral Byrd, did you sell out to fucking Tyson Chicken, dude?
And Cape Horn.
I've heard it said that there are 7 continents in the world, and one of them has never been seen by a woman, and that's Antarctica. Is that actually true?
Well, if the Palma Peninsula is an island, as far as I know, that's true. No woman's ever stepped foot upon the Antarctic continent, and it's the most peaceful place in the world.
Well, I'm sure that won't last very long. I understand now that you're working with the Arnold Bread Company in charge of frozen foods. Now, is there any future for frozen foods down these frozen extremities?
Oh, okay. So he's no longer a military man, and he's working at. So he joined the private sector. I get it. Okay. I thought that the dude was saying that they were sponsoring his expeditions now, but yeah, this definitely wasn't the era of TikTok sponsorships or whatever.
Well, I think the human race can be helped by that. This was thought out by Dean Arnold, who's, in my opinion, a great humanitarian. He learned that we went down there after 4 or 5 years and finished a meal that we had left there on the table when we had evacuated Little America. Everything was perfect, including the bread. So he got the idea of this frozen bread, and all...
Y'all nasty, boy. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I guess you could just leave your stuff out, and it's so, it's so dry and cold that you never see your breath, and your food stays good. That's perfectly fine. No need to fake your frozen breath, right, Admiral Byrd?
Already he sent some to Europe, and it's worked very well over there for some of the starving people. So you can store it down in the Antarctic and against the lean years, and you wouldn't have any people in the world really starving if you did that.
Yes, in the event of an atomic war...
You stay there forever.
Admiral, you speak of the resources of Antarctica. What are they? What are the natural resources there?
Well, we've found enough of coal within 180 miles of the South Pole in a great ridge of mountains. It's not covered with snow, enough to supply the whole world for quite a while.
Well,
that's the coal. Now, there's evidence of many other minerals. We are pretty sure there's oil. Now, that coal shows the bottom of the well. Now, by far the coldest spot in the world. Where that coal is gets 100 below zero in the world.
Notice he said bottom of the world again. Debriefing much?
Well, it was once tropical. So we think there's oil there, and there's evidence, probably uranium there.
Is it any secret? Is there uranium there? That would be the only thing that would be practical to actually go after, I suppose. Everything else would be economically unfeasible, wouldn't it?
Well, as we recklessly expend our resources, the time will come when we'll have to go after that stuff down there. Well, you know, I avoided what you said about uranium. I'm not sure about that. I don't want to have the world fighting over the Antarctic.
Admiral, is there a competition among other nations to try to get information about Antarctica and possibly to secure some of these resources?
Well, yes. There are now 7 nations very much interested.
Yeah, dude, he's not mincing words there, obviously, right? Obviously. I mean, we're talking about a totally unclaimed, vast, minerally rich, resource-rich area that doesn't even have any sort of wildlife that you have to worry about pissing off Greenpeace or whatever. There's no civilization. There's no sort of indigenous natives. There's no... I mean, really, they're like, even most deep sea fishes don't even swim that far south into the Antarctic. According to the data that I've seen, it's the salinity of the ocean gets way less salty as you get further and further towards the Arctic Circle, right? So, like, there's even less natural wildlife than normal in the Antarctic. Okay, according to the data that I've seen. I've never been to the Antarctic. But, you know, that really brings up the most important point that I think isn't covered enough. At least I try to keep bringing it up because it is very compelling that, you know, we've been through all of the, you know, the oil crises and the gas shortages and the oil spills and the pipeline disputes and just, you know, the fracking and all the problems that come with that, and the strip mining of like beautiful mountain ranges that are never going to return. They're gone forever, just to squeeze out the last little ounces of coal and gold out of the mountains. I mean, it is an absolute travesty what we've done in the sake of mining out resources from our land and from our backyard, right? But this whole time you're telling me that Antarctica is just sitting there untapped, unclaimed, and we're just going to continue buying crude oil from our frenemies overseas? I mean, it's insane, dude. It's absolutely insane. And again, the one point that all the civilized nations in the world can agree on, the one thing is the Antarctic Treaty, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is, you know, they're ready to fight wars over. Even some very stupid shit they're willing to fight wars over. But yeah, when it comes to Antarctica, no, they're all in agreement that, yeah, you can do approved science down there. But in terms of wide-scale geodetic surveying, not so much. And that's really what we need to be doing in the Antarctic. We need to say, hypothetically, take NASA's budget, which is over $20 billion annually, and just nix NASA. They're a big waste of time and waste of funds, and spend, say, half of that money towards actual exploration and surveying of the far south. And then take the other half of that money and put it towards the homeless problem. And you got problem solved. Oh, well, no, that's not true, because you still got to nix the Federal Reserve altogether. Money isn't going to solve any of this when when the entity that supplies the money is evil and siphoning our wealth away from us for over 100 years since the Federal Reserve Act was signed in 1913. Right? 112 years. I think that they've been robbing us blind for far long enough, people, right? Anyway, it always comes back to that. But isn't that an interesting point? Like, through all of these crises and oil spills and fracking and all that, Antarctica is just sitting there? Okay, it makes perfect sense.
Very much interested. Russia is interested tremendously. That I'm sure of.
And you know, honestly, I think that that's the reason that we got the whole space race, nuclear proliferation, fear porn, all of that stuff. I think that it was to cover up the fact that the United States and Russia are probably in collusion doing some shit that nobody knows about in the Antarctic, just like the Nazis were doing prior to the end of World War II, right? So, I don't know, man. And of course, we did integrate a lot of the top Nazis into our government, as well as the Russian government and space programs after World War II, through things like Operation Paperclip and others that are just unacknowledged, right? Surely, if they acknowledge Paperclip, and there's like thousands of dudes in that, there's probably way more that they will never admit to, right? There are deep, black budget type programs, right? Anyway, that is a bit of speculation, but I don't know. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it?
Australia has an expedition down there. The Argentine, the Chile, New Zealand, Britain, and so on. Now, you can understand those people down there being interested because they live down there. The New Zealanders, the Argentinians, the Chileans, and the Australians. And so we don't do much about claiming anything.
Admiral, you make this sound a little crowded. Are there that many expeditions now there or en route there?
Well, you know, as I said, it's the most peaceful place in the world, but I don't think it will be for long because of this intense interest on the part of other nations and this nation.
Well, Admiral.
Right, but then we got the Antarctic Treaty. So, like, in the capitalistic, inverted fascist society that we definitely have today, and that was being sort of, birthed back then, even, it is just unthinkable that they would let such a, resource potential just go to waste. No, I think not. I think, anybody that believes that is just fooling themselves, honestly.
Well, Admiral Byrd, are private expeditions a thing of the past? Is expedition and exploration, making expedition and exploration now purely a government function because of the tremendous cost and organization?
No, I don't think so. I think down south it may be more or less a thing of the past, but not other expeditions that go there. A lot of them go north now.
This latest expedition now on the way is a government expedition, I take it.
Yes, that's the government.
Byrd, may I ask you, is there a great difference between the top of the world and the bottom of the world?
There is. Now, the North Pole is the center of an ocean 10,000 feet deep. The South Pole, the center of a plateau, 10,000 feet high. The North Polar Sea is surrounded by
a plateau 10,000 feet high. I mean, that's 2 miles, basically, right? Fuck-a-doodle-doo. We're about to wrap this thing up anyway, but forgive the bedoodles, sorry.
Continents are slightly frozen. The Antarctic continent is surrounded by a belt of ice, frozen seas of at least 1,200 miles thick. Now, the south is a plateau. It gets, in some places, 14,000 feet up. I've been over areas about 13,000, and it's a little bit chilly up there. So there's that big difference between the top and bottom of the world. The north really isn't very cold up there. Up there on the Arctic Ocean.
Compared to the South. Admiral Byrd, we often hear it said that our young Americans now aren't as hardy as their forefathers. Do you think that Americans do measure up to the standards, the physical standards and morale standards of the past?
I do. I don't believe that. I think they're just as hardy.
Well, what would you say was the most valuable factor on an expedition? Is it morale, or physical courage, or is it sheer equipment?
Well, I've always thought that loyalty was by far the most important trait. The British told me that when I first went down in 28, that I couldn't possibly get through the winter night without a mutiny if I took more than 20 men. But to serve science, I had to take 42 men. Then I took 56 the next time, and so on. So, and I did find that loyalty was the most important thing during the winter night when it's very hard on your nerves. I think that's best trait.
Well, that's a very valuable characteristic at any time. Well, thank you very much, Admiral Byrd. It's been a great pleasure to have you here tonight.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
The opinions expressed on the Longines Chronoscope.
Oh damn!
were
I
those
almost just
of the
went
speaker.
and did not unmute myself, but I was just saying, damn right, Admiral Byrd. That motherfucker is the truth, though, ain't he, boy? Like, yeah, damn right. Little bit chilly up there, huh?
Those of the speakers. The editorial board for this edition of the Longines Chronoscope was Larry LeSueur and Kenneth Crawford. Our distinguished guest was Admiral Richard E. Byrd. A Longines watch makes the most perfect Christmas gift. It has beauty, elegance,
All
and
right, dude. I think we had about enough of the Christmas for 1 year. Anyway, I think that's a good time to wrap this one up at 4:56, and what a great time. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me and joining me for this stream. There will be more to come. I've got some other content in the works, and I'll be doing some of the Prias. Another one of the Prias probably tomorrow. So definitely subscribe and do the thing with the bell. And don't forget to drink your water. Hydrate, everybody. Hydrate. Eat your vegetables. And if you want to support the channel, the links are below. One love, you guys. Thanks so much for joining. As always, spread the word. Spread the world. And peace out, everybody. Y'all be good.